Thank you, Christina, for that dazzling optimism. Yi Lily Chan from our photography, video, and related media program, that's them, represents this year's master's degree candidates. A most international woman, Lily grew up in Hong Kong, went to high school in Toronto and university in London at Goldsmiths and at Bath, and then worked in advertising back in Hong Kong, where Lily says she found herself perpetually sandwiched between uncompromising creative and artistically enlightened marketers, mulling over the most spectacular tug of war. This tug of war and sandwiching pointed her to us, where she could focus on her work as a still and moving image maker, and again, in Lily's words, hopefully as an artist who responds pertinently to herself and her times. Celebrating with Lily today is her mother, Linda Toy Ling Cheng, Lily Chan.
Thank you, Jeffrey Neeson, President David Rhodes, Executive Vice President Anthony Rhodes, members of the board, department chairs, distinguished guests Carrie Mae Weems, faculty and staff, parents, spouses, friends, family, guests, and the amazing graduating class of 2016. It is my great honor and pleasure to thank you for being here today. What are you studying? I'm sure my fellow colleagues here in the graduating class have been asked this question a lot. Once you respond with the name of your program, a likely follow-up question would be, so what do you actually do? Jean-Luc Godard's proposition in Les Chinoises accompanies me in such queries. He wrote that it is necessary to confront vague ideas with clear images. With inevitable brevity, but with much assurance, I say, in response to what I do, that I capture and recycle imagery to tell critical stories about the time I live in. A friend once responded, "How is this different from journalism?" Her question needed consideration because art can be very much like journalism in that it is a document of a time, but conducted with an absolute embrace and demand of our unique subjectivities. And with professionalized objectivity out of the way, perhaps we can at last begin to reflect upon our perspective limitations and engage in much more empathetic conversations about differences, about contexts, and about symptoms. Fellow graduates, we live in an incredibly bombastic world. Put cacophony on steroids, accelerate its cycle, and we have the norm. How do we maneuver through noise as artists and writers, through technologies and opportunities, criticism, and suggestions that contradict each other? Perhaps it is a good time to treat the world like ambient music. Listen with our unique sensitivity to the seemingly ignorable but utterly interesting soundtrack, and be taken by the tone that resonates with us. Judge less and be a sponge. Take in a sea of notions and let it seep inside us. Know as much as possible about something before we critique it or become explicitly antagonistic to it. Then, just when we think we know something thoroughly, question that and keep learning. Try not to be defensive of your work. I know it's hard, even when we feel completely offended. Recall the many hours spent in presentations and critiques, where we evaluated each other's works for the purpose of development. One lesson learned from this exhilarating and often grueling process was to really speak less about what one likes or doesn't like, what does or doesn't make sense, and inquire more patiently about where the other is coming from. Regarding his work, the Taiwanese director Tsai Ming-liang stated, "People ask me a lot of questions. Why do you make films that we don't understand? Why does he stand there? What does that wall mean?" I ask that they look at the moon, because the moon will not answer your questions, and you wouldn't be so silly to ask the moon those questions. But if you're willing to look at the moon, your sentiments must differ each time. Hence, you become calmer, more sensitive, more supple. This is the starting point of the solving of problems. Our hearts are not as tender as we think them to be. We only really know our own pain and not the pain of others. The watching of my films, it is a practice. If you look at the moon often, then you may perhaps understand my films. To my fellow graduates of the class of 2016, I wish we all continue to create and become bright moons that engage the returning gaze. On your behalf, I give thanks to our families, friends, and acquaintances, here or not, who have accompanied and supported us through our years of study, especially at our times of eclipse. Thank you all. Sincere congratulations and all the best.